Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I need a bourbon. It's been an intense day. Saul mentioned that I'm an ultra-minority, and I want to talk a little bit about what my life has been like as obviously a woman and a black person, but also a gay person, an ex-Mormon, a polyglot, and a veteran. I'm going to start with sort of talking about my upbringing and where I really didn't belong. And when I say didn't belong, I don't mean like I didn't feel like I didn't belong and that I was just insecure. I mean like I really didn't belong. And then kind of talk about the culmination of this business I'm building that's really focused on helping people express themselves and express their own belonging. So I grew up in a small town called Liberty, Missouri. It's not quite this small. There is a Walmart and I think a Target now. And I'm the second of 7 children in a Mormon family. My mother is white, my father is black. And Liberty, Missouri is a very typical, what you would imagine from Missouri, a lot of white, evangelical, Friday Night Lights kind of town. And I didn't really belong. So my mother raised me and my 5 sisters to be fine young women and prepare to be wives and mothers, because that is the only purpose that women have. Now, one thing my mom did not plan for is that I would ultimately have a wife who is a mother. So she was not ready for that one, so I really didn't have the opportunity to express my ambition. I loved Legos and math and science and puzzles, and those were just not things that fine young women do. So also, I had a ton of friends. Only one of them was not a fictional character. I have a penchant for stories about really weird girls who are really smart and ultimately turn out okay and change the world. So most of my friends were girls like that. But I did have one friend, and she was pretty awesome. And then, as I headed into high school, I still didn't really feel like I could fit in, and I didn't really have an opportunity to explore my black identity, and certainly not my gay identity. And so in high school, and I know you think you know how this is that everything turned, and I found a place to belong in high school. I became the captain of the football team and the head cheerleader, which is why I didn't ever need to go on a date. But what actually happened is AOL came out with chat rooms. Now, AOL chat at that time was a great place to convene and find people who were like me, other kids in small towns who didn't fit in. It was also a good place to find creepers, which was the downside to chat rooms and filters at the time. But it was the first time that I felt I belonged somewhere, that I could talk to other kids who were maybe figuring out if they were gay, or that it wasn't this weird thing to maybe like girls, and that it was okay to be mad about the lack of progress in the civil rights movement, and sort of all of these things. And so it was a huge opportunity for me to explore my identity and connect with other people. And so it is this really unprecedented thing that has happened because of the internet, that people are convening in tribes that have never ever, and some of them never should probably convene in real life. And I mean, come on, you think about all of the subreddits. So, but the internet has allowed for people to belong, even if they don't belong in their small town, and even if they don't belong or feel like they belong anywhere else. So, my mother and father, I graduated from high school before I was 18, and they sent me to Brigham Young University to find a husband and start fulfilling my purpose. So obviously, that one was not, BYU wasn't a good fit. And so people often ask, like, how did you end up in the Army? You're a black lesbian. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But in fact, the Army was a more liberal alternative than staying at BYU and trying to find a husband. I mean, one time I told my mom, look, okay, I'll marry a man, but whose life do you want to ruin? You're going to ruin some poor man's life if he has to be married to me. So I joined the Army. Bill Clinton was president, and the world was safe at the time. And I signed up to be an Arabic linguist, or a linguist, and then they chose Arabic for me. So I had the opportunity to live in Monterey, California, go to the Defense Language Institute, and study Arabic. And then as I was finishing up my training in military intelligence, September 11th happened and the whole world changed. And the Army was a great place for me as a young adult to sort of grow up and feel like I belonged, because in the Army we all bleed green. But I still, because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, didn't totally feel like I belonged. And so although I had these amazing experiences with people and felt very, very close to people, ultimately I got kicked out because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because I had the propensity to commit a homosexual act, which is totally true. So, so as I left the Army, I decided, well, I should go to school and figure out what I want to do with my life. So I moved to Columbus, Ohio, where I didn't know anyone, go Bucks, and attended Ohio State. And Columbus is a really great city. It's this like kind of blue dot in a very red state, and it's very open and very smart. But Ohio State was hard for me because I was in class with 18-year-old kids from small towns in Ohio. And so as I figured and kind of figured my way through school and worked to put myself through, it led to an opportunity. I received a fellowship and had the opportunity to move to Syria. And so I went to Damascus not knowing anyone and decided to teach English, and I ended up staying for 2 years and got involved with some small civil society organizations and worked in women's rights and traipsed around the Middle East, and it was a phenomenal and life-changing experience. But over time, as I went through my quarter-life crisis, I thought a lot about, what's the long game here for me in Syria? Because as an American, no matter how much I tried to fit, there were too many language and cultural barriers. I mean, some of my friends, their families had been in Damascus for thousands of years. And so I also reflected on sort of my own, the elements of my identity where there are women still fighting for equal pay in the United States, and we are facing the mass incarceration of black men. And at the time, gay people couldn't get married. And so I had to really ponder, if I want to spend my life and think about having an impact, maybe Syria isn't the right place for me. Maybe I need to go home. And so I came back to the United States, and I was washing dishes and trying to decide if I wanted to go back to school and figure out what I ultimately wanted to do. And I ended up getting into business building. And this happened because I met two guys that were making a lot of money on the internet, and I thought, well, they're not that smart. And they're making a lot of money. Maybe I can do that. So I built my first company, which was an affiliate marketing company, and I sold it for a little pile of money. And then I built another company called Fuda, which was the first daily deal site in Columbus, which was focused only on independent restaurants, because I didn't understand the teeth whitening, tanning thing with Groupon. And so the really powerful lesson with that company, it was just me and a partner, is that for every certificate we sold, we gave $1 to the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. And so in 14 months, we raised over $15,000 as a two-person company for the food bank, which represented over 60,000 meals in our community. And so it was a powerful lesson to think about that building a business or creating a company can be a lever for impact. And so right now I am in the midst of what I will call my entrepreneurial perfect storm. I think for those of you entrepreneurs out there, you maybe get one in your life where it is the right market circumstances and the right timing. And I have learned the right lessons to this point in my life to attempt this thing. And this is not a stock photo. This is a lot of the people that work for me. So one of my mentors told me once that whether you're intentional about your culture or not, you have one. And so in November 2012, I started this company with a co-founder and 8 people. We now have 140 people. And a big question we ask when we interview people is, will they have a best friend at work? Will they feel like they belong? And so not only is it this realm of my own making that I get to feel like I belong, but it's really important that we're intentional to ensure that everybody else that joins us and joins our team also feels like they belong. And so far, I think that most of our people do. And then sometimes we force the belonging thing on people. One of my artists is a drag queen, and at least once a year, usually more, we buy all the tables at the drag show and make everyone go. And the stress, they're like, I don't know what to do at a drag show. And it's like, it's okay. It's men in dresses and a lot of makeup. It's hilarious, and it's going to be fun. And so we really encourage people to get out of their comfort zone and think about accepting others. So the other thing that we do, because a lot of folks that work for me, we're misfits or special snowflakes or different. And so one of the things that we try to do is think about other marginalized groups. And so we do a lot of volunteering. We'll do about 2,000 hours this year. And so we work with people experiencing homelessness and people who are experiencing poverty and are trying to escape it, and people who are hungry. Because I think even if you are marginalized, if you can move through your opportunities, then the best way to deal with that is to pay it forward and help support other people who are struggling. So a lot of times people ask me, like, you know, you're in the tech world, it's mostly straight white men, you know, does it work for you to be yourself? And the reality is it's too hard to keep track of who I'm out to or not, and so I've just decided I'm just going to go for it and be myself all the time. Now, one thing I do is when I'm talking, and I'm often in the room with all straight white men, no offense to the straight white men in the room, but I try to create a rapport, so I'll maybe talk about wife problems, like, hey guys, don't you hate it when your wife spends all your money? And and that tends to, you know, then they feel like, okay, she's one of us. But the hard thing is, it's interesting, you know, I found that being myself really works because it's a great filter, because I don't want to work with misogynists and homophobes. And so sometimes I'm in a meeting and a new vendor comes in, and, you know, they're walking into the conference room and they're looking around just like, where's the white guy? Not you. Taking notes, honey? You know, and so I'm like, now we can't do business with you. And I talk about my wife, and not that she spends all my money, my wife that makes her own money, but you know, to see how people react, because I don't want to work with homophobes either. And my favorite thing to do in these meetings is say, you know, obviously in my company we believe in equal pay, which is why we pay all the men in our company 70 cents on the dollar. And it's legal. It's totally legal. Lily Ledbetter lost. And then just see what people do. Because I think by being myself and talking about these issues, it's an opportunity to bring to light things that people maybe don't want to talk about and are a little bit uncomfortable. Because this equal pay thing is real shit, and it's a problem. So, you know, for me, by just deciding that I'm going to go for it, it has worked out so far. So I want to talk a little bit about my business, just in the context of belonging. So if you look, well, my mom thinks I have a t-shirt company. If you look at my websites, we have multiple brands. It looks like a t-shirt company. But what we do that's really interesting is, I mean, the reality is no one in the United States, not even poor people, need another t-shirt. You can get t-shirts for free at events. You can take $1 to the thrift store and come out with a dozen neat vintage shirts. So no one needs a t-shirt, and yet My company has now sold millions and millions of dollars worth of t-shirts for $28. And the reason is because we say we are in the business of self-expression. And so we are kind of the only people on the internet thinking about t-shirts for introverts. So one of our most popular sellers is Introverts Unite. We're here, we're uncomfortable, and we want to go home. Or cute feminist t-shirts like Mermaids Against Misogyny. And then I was showing Chris earlier, one of our best-selling mugs is an illustration of Neil deGrasse Tyson and says, "Y'all motherfuckers need science." But what we are doing is we have a team of artists that really think about social identity, because what a t-shirt is, why someone chooses to put a printed object on their body is a really, really interesting thing. So that means I'm going to put something on and literally move through the world with a message on my body. And so in our company, we think about that all the time, because no one needs another t-shirt. And as a Buckeye fan, there are 1,000 places to get a way to express my Buckeye love. But as an introvert or a feminist or a science geek, or in all of these niche corners of the internet where there are these tribes convening, there is not necessarily product to allow people to express themselves as they move through the world. And so one of the things I think about a lot is maybe I put a t-shirt on and you don't get the joke, but it does indicate that I belong somewhere. And so I think in pursuing the path to self-acceptance through maybe product, maybe expressing yourself in your space, it's an interesting opportunity to really think about how people move through the world. And so our actual purpose as a company is that we are in the business of self-expression through exceptional design. And so it's really a really fun space for me to have sought belonging for most of my life and then find it and think about building a business that helps other people maybe feel like they belong, even if their tribe never convenes in real life, and even if they only have friends on the internet or in fiction. So what happens then if people arrive at self-acceptance? I mean, do these t-shirts matter? Does an introvert t-shirt matter? I don't really know, but I hope so. And my hope is that perhaps if people can accept themselves, they may be a little bit more likely to accept other people and maybe a bit more likely to be compassionate to others. So that's what I'm shooting for. Thank you.